الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه أما بعد. Continuing with the characteristic of a da'iyah. And we said da'iyah is every one of us, everyone loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, longing to be pleased by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, must be or have this characteristic of inviting to the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inviting the way of Allah, it's not something that someone need to have its own time in parallel of his life or the journey of life, but in reality it is part of the spirit of a believer to act upon. The more you implement the deen, the more you'll be helping other guiding to the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even without speaking, by your own behavior. And that is the way of the believer. That is the way of the believer. So the last one that we have studied, قال ليس على الداعية غير البلاغ. Upon the one who invited to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should not, overdo it by thinking that they had to compel or force people to accept Islam. No, da'iyah is al-balagh, to convey. إِنَّمَا عَلَيْكَ الْبَلَاغُ وَعَلَيْنَا الْحِسَابُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to His Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَلَيْسَ لَهُمْ وَلَا عَلَيْهِمْ أَن تَتَّجِهِ الدَّعْوَةِ إِلَى أَيِّ مَصِيرٍ. The same, the person who making da'wah or longing to making da'wah, in his heart is truly loving, wishing that everyone will follow the guidance of Islam. They are not responsible in how this effort will be oriented and how it goes, because that's in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other one is قال وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. One of the great aspects in the way of the da'wah is to become an imam. To become an imam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned this in the end of Surah Al-Furqan. وَالَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا اجْعَلْنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَأَبْنَائِنَا وَأَوْلَادِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. So what is the imam here? Imam is a role model. Imam, when people they see you, they inspire from you. When people they see you talking, they like what you say. They see how quiet, calm, patient. They see you speaking wisdom, subhanAllah, whatever you say from the Quran is all of it wisdom. So وَجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. Imagine first, there's two aspects in this dua. In the beginning of the dua, which is not, part of this talk, but it's nice to say. So وَالَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ. O Allah, bestow upon us from our spouses and our offspring the delight of our eyes. Because when you have the peace in your home, then you'll be able to make truly the da'wah. You'll be able to have that comfort, that inner peace that is in your worship. So qurratu a'yun, imagine, the whole household are obeying Allah, worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this house is all filled with rahmah. Then that person, he's longing to a greater level, which is to be a good example for others. So imam, it does not need to be a leader. Imam does not to have that much knowledge to lead people or to teach people. No, imam in your behavior. وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. So everybody can be imam, good example for others. Good example from entering the masjid till you stand to the prayer. It can be a good example for younger people, for other people, by the people, how you're tidy, how you're standing on the row, how you make in khushu' your salat. Good example. Many people they learn from you without you know. And all the aspect of life, especially in the society, whatever you do, it has an impact. It has an impact on others. فسألوه أن يقر أعينهم بطاعة أزواجهم وذرياتهم له. So one of the delight of the eyes for the household to be has that unity and cohesion and have the obedience. They have the obedience. The children obeying, the parents and so on. And the parents, they are in good relations, so they are subhanAllah, kind of fueling the whole family with stability, with security, with peace. And this peace is not must be materialistic. We're talking about peace, spiritual peace, in their salat, in their way how they're talking to them, His word encouraging them, all in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's وَجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. So every believer should have that drive to become, a good example for others. As he's inspired from others, he wants also to be a good example. So the good example here, not to be superior to others, that's not the point. The good example, which means like the test, for you is to strive to be a good servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, you're going to be a good example. If people, they talk about sidq, you are, insha'Allah, checked when it comes to the sidq and so on. So, وَجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا, make us to be leaders or guides or good example for the muttaqeen, for the pious. And he said muttaqeen, he didn't say Muslim. So muttaqeen are the pious. So imagine this person not looking forward to have this position, no, looking to be one of the foremost among the muttaqeen. That's the drive here. Foremost among the muttaqeen. The next one, الداعي عالي الهمة لا تشغله الدعوة عن عبادته. Now there's another aspect. People, for example, they get into the work of the da'wah. Let's say make an association, make an organization. And that's not the point that we are talking about here, because every one of us must be a da'iyah. A da'iyah as part of your belief, part of your foundation of your belief, If you see something, a munkar, it hurts you. You want to change it. If you saw someone will ask you about Islam, he will be like, taking all your time to explain to them Islam, So you are a da'iyah, someone, the way you want to behave, if people, they know that you are Muslim, they're going to say appreciating the way of your behavior, and then they're going to link it to your faith. Like you see today, inshallah, in the people of Gaza, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help them and give them the relief, Ya Rabb. People are accepting Islam because of the patience that they're seeing in the face of these people. So subhanAllah, how to link, how these people can be persevering and enduring all these calamities. They went back to the Quran. All of them, they're reading the Quran, subhanAllah. They're reading the Quran. But that's how you become an imam. That's how you become an imam. Your behavior is going to make people ask about who this person is. They're going to say he's Muslim. Say, what is Muslim? Then they're going to go back to your source of knowledge. They're going to find the Quran and the guidance of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, الداعي عالي الهمة لا تشغله الدعوة عن عبادته. Because there's people, when they get into organization and everything, they think, subhanAllah, they're doing everything for the sake of Allah, and everything, it's like they became the gate to people to accept Islam. And this is very wrong idea, by the way. Why? Because we already said it. People, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assigned to us to convey, but not to force people to come to Islam. You just convey. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide whom He will. So there's people, when they make it like, as a profession, the problem, they lose the balance. They lose the balance, which is their own worship. Their own worship. So if someone wants to make da'wah, you have to be careful to keep your balance, to keep your worship. In the beginning, it's about you, it's not about the others. The other, seek first to be guided, and then you can guide people. But you cannot guide people or you're not guided. Right? When you have a lot of shortcomings, just go fix your shortcoming. A person who's like, neglecting his prayer, and he said, I'm making da'wah. That's not right, Here, the shortcoming that you're doing, with this action that you're claiming you are doing sincerely, it's really getting you off the path. Getting you off the path. So that's one of the most important aspects which need to be, balanced in the life of a believer. The next point is Al-Rabbaniyya. Al-Rabbaniyya is, subhanallah, an aspect that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَلَكِنْ كُونُوا رَبَّانِيِّينَ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تُعَلِّمُونَ الْكِتَابَ وَبِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَدْرُسُونَ. Be Rabbaniyun. Rabbaniyun, you find it in the translation, God-fearing people, learned people, but Al-Rabbaniyya comes from At-Tarbiyah, So someone educate themselves, that someone cleanse themselves, there was someone take care of themselves, and then can help others. Because there is difference between teaching or learning and being tarbiyah. The tarbiyah is something that someone, is like reforming, correcting, instilling values, and then slowly embrace that values to be part of your habit. So that's the tarbiyah. It's like when you're talking about education, the secular education, look, the kids, they take them from early age, and how they're going to speak, how they're going to write, how they're going to, to express themselves. So imagine transport that to the way of the deen. How you're going to have the right etiquette with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how to behave with people, and all according to the guidance of Allah and His Messenger. So the tarbiyah is very important. So قال مجاهد هم الذين يربون الناس بصغار العلم قبل كباره. Mujahid, he said, those who teach the people with the small knowledge before to get to the high knowledge. So the small knowledge is going to be the etiquette, the good behavior, the conduct, how the respect, all those things. وقال ابن تيمية وذلك هو المنقول على السلف. This is what has been reported from the righteous predecessor. نقل عن علي قال هم الذين يغضون الناس بالحكمة ويربونهم عليها. They instill in people wisdom, and then they have them to grow with this wisdom. So that's the tarbiyah. That's the tarbiyah. And the tarbiyah, you find it, subhanAllah, in Muslim society, you find it is being mentioned in many of the quotes, many of the proverbs, many of the stories, stories who has like great moral stories, and all, subhanAllah, the Quran and the Sunnah being transformed into words that becomes like tradition and customs to help the young one grow, but not to the point that the custom becomes like conflicting with the deen, of course. But to saying, subhanAllah, that's the tarbiyah, nourishing, nurturing, that is actually the tarbiyah here. So that's one of the aspects of the da'iyah that he has or she has to embrace as a part of education of themselves, wisdom, nurturing, and persevering to really help themselves change deeply from inside. There's many other definition, but the most important are these. قال سعيد بن جبير حكماء أتقياء, wise and pious. وقال الحسن البصري فقهاء علماء, people rooted in knowledge and scholars. وقال لولا العلماء لصار الناس كالبهائم. Had it not been the existence of scholar, people teaching, nurturing people, then people, they will be like the cattle. They don't know what to do. وقال ابن القيم وأولى الأقوال عندي بالصواب أنها جمع رباني وأن الرباني المنسوب إلى الربان الذي يربي الناس. He said the most, let's say the strongest opinion in my view is Rabbani, the one who nurtured people, educate people, correct their matters, help them in growing up and in changing and being reformed in a good and servant. So this is one of the characteristics that the da'iyah and the believer has to embrace or to work on. Also, الداعية الصادق تستمر هيبته الإيمانية في تعاظم. There's another very aspect which is the sidq, the truthfulness, which is actually a result of all this action of nurturing, of cleansing, of educating oneself. الداعية الصادق تستمر هيبته. So when someone is صادق, truthful in his da'wah, sincere, he truly has his heart into the da'wah. He's going to have, subhanAllah, that respect. وتظل في تصاعد ما تصاعد هيبته لله. And a person will have respect and highly regarded, as much as the person is nearer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The nearer the person is to Allah, the more this person is respected among the people, subhanAllah. قال الشافعي من وعظ أخاه بفعله كان هاديا. Now it comes to the moral of this statement, which is the best reminder is with your own action. So Imam Shafi'i said, whoever who admonish or remind his brother with his own action, he is a true guide. He is a true guide. وكان عبد الواحد بن زيد يقول ما بلغ الحسن البصري إلى ما بلغ إلا لكونه إذا أمر الناس بشيء يكون أسبقهم إليه. Said the Imam al-Hasan al-Basri had achieved or attained this high level because of one aspect. He used to, whenever he asked or command people or admonish people to do something, he will be the first to do it. He will be the first to do it. وَإِذَا نَهَاهُمْ عَنْ شَيْءٍ, and when he prohibited them and forbid them to do something, he usually is the farthest from it. وقد قيل من لا ينفعك لحظه لا ينفعك لفظه. And it has been said, the one who does not benefit you when you sit with them, then his talk will not benefit you. Because people sometimes, all what they look in is just, to kill the time. And there's a beautiful saying of the writer, his name Al-Rafi'i, it's a beautiful book, his name Wahyu al-Qalam, the revelation of the pen. He said, إن الموعظة إن لم تتأدى في أسلوبها الحي كانت بالباطل أشبه. When you give an advice, when you give a reminder, if it's not conveyed with its, with life, أسلوبها الحي, there is a way how you give it, and to be like, it's alive, it have a spirit, it will be closer to the falsehood. If it's like empty, bare, dull, it does not have a spirit, does not have a wisdom, it does not benefit. It's like, subhanAllah, it's like you're saying nothing. It's like almost saying falsehood. وَإِنَّهُ لَا يُغَيِّرُ النَّفْسِ إِلَّا النَّفْسِ. And no one can change the state of a self of a person, only the soul of that person. So which is mean, if you talk, it does not come from your heart, that he will not have any effect on the other person. قال إلا النفس التي فيها قوة التحويل والتغيير, because the soul has the power and the force of changing. كنفوس الأنبياء. Look the example of the prophets, the soul of the prophets. ومن كان في طريقه, and whoever who following their path. وإن هذه الصناعة إنما هي وضع نور البصيرة في الكلام. How to do that is to put the light of your insight, your sincerity, your concern, your worrying about the deen, your love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You pour it into your words. You pour it in your words. So it's like the envelope when you give a gift, the best of the gift will be also regarded by the best of the packages. A nice bag, so person he sees the gift, he sees that this is something good. So the best of the advice, which is like more profound here, is to garnish it, if you can say, with the light of your insight, with your sincerity. It comes from your heart. Because the words that comes from the tongue, it hit the ears and bounce back. The words from the hearts get to the hearts. علي الهمة من الدعاة ليس هدفه التجميع القتيل. One of the other aspects is when someone has high spirit in the da'wah, their concern and their objective is not to make da'wah to have more people. There's people who saw them and they still, they have this intention. It's like for people that said, our organization had, converted such and such Muslim, such and such place. So that's not the right, it's not the right perspective. Because when you have a person to say the kalima of the shahada, that's good, but should not be your purpose to the quantity. The purpose is the quality. When we say the quality, is the path of tarbiyah, the path of the tarbiyah. Because you can have, subhanAllah, 100, they will not do anything, they will not help, they will not just, they like your speech and afterward they might change. But the tarbiyah is to help a person really to not only transform himself, but to become someone who transforms others. And this is the example when the Prophet ﷺ was busy calling the leader of Quraysh. So it was the perspective quantity. What the perspective leaders, people who has power, they might help Islam. And then when Abdullah ibn Maktoum came to him, the Prophet was busy and Abdullah ibn Maktoum was needing the da'wah. But the Prophet ﷺ, the way he pushed him, Abdullah, or pulled him, he frowned his face. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down Quran. قَالَ عَبَسَ وَتَوَلَّ أَنْ جَاءَهُ الْأَعْمَى. So this A'mā, he might be transformed to be minaret of light, guiding everyone around him. And this leader, you don't need them because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need bodies, needs hearts. And that's the big difference. That's here the main reason here we're talking about. So when someone making da'wah, he targeted hearts, he targets people to really help them to change. but not targeting like numbers. Like a person, when he accepts Islam, then will pass to the next one. And that person actually is going to be hurt because nobody later on even asked about him or like, checking on him. فيقول أحد الشيوخ: التدرج في الخطوات وانتظار الزمن وعدم التسرع بالنتائج فكل أجل فلكل أجل كتاب. So someone need to take steps, and should not hasten everything. Every action has to be fulfilled, has his own book, has his own term in the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have 5 minutes or so, or a little bit more. The next point, which is very important, which is what is the muntalaq of the da'wah. When someone, for example, I'm going to be initiating my da'wah, thinking of da'wah. What is the fundamental of everything? Why are you making the da'wah? What is the starting for your da'wah? And how you're going to convey it, or like what you're going to convey. The first thing is the قال التوحيد منطلق الدعوة. The oneness of Allah is the beginning of everything. So do not delude yourself or let people delude you to get you on a question. For example, if someone will ask you about a question, what is the status of women in Islam? What is the jihad? Why the Islam you have the punishment cutting the head and cutting the hands and cutting the things? Don't get into that thing. These people, they only want to argue. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about the people of Quraysh, they give him the example, the Isa alayhi salam. You're talking about, you talking about Isa, how Isa, he's the son of God according to the Christians. قال الله سبحانه قال ما ضربوه لك إلا جدلا. They only mention his name to argue with you, to dispute. They don't want to understand. So such a people, you turn away from them. You don't even talk to them, because you're not going to convince them, because their heart is filled with perversity. You don't even want to consider them. Say salam and peace, because there is many people that want to debate and everything, and they get like sweaty and screaming and things, and then that person, he will not change. For the tawheed, the oneness of Allah. When someone tell you about things, say, yeah, don't talk. If you want to talk about who is your God. Starting with the Rabb. Rabb. For example, people, they say, oh, our Lord told us. He said, who is your Lord? Like, for example, today, always, we cannot, miss but talking about what's happening in Palestine. So, for example, the Zalimeen, they say, oh, this is our country, it's been promised to us. Say, who promised you? Who promised you? Who promised you? You say God. Who is God? Who is your God? Who promised you? Why you impose on me something personally I don't believe? It becomes right, international right. You say God. Who is your God? I'm going to tell you the characteristic of your God. Your characteristic of your God is a racist, right? Because he chose some people and ignored others. He's a zalim, transgressor. Why? Because he's telling you to take this regardless. If there's anybody, kill them. So this is not Allah, nor the God of the words. This is a fabrication of your own mind. So how can you impose such a thing on the people who say it is ours? Now you are a transgressor. You are a liar, transgressor, or people of ignorance, and the best title that being bestowed upon you to be identified with Al-Maghdubi alayhim. The most perfect, excellent title. Maghdubi alayhim. More than that. فالتوحيد, people, they come talk to you about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, said, the God that you worship, I don't worship, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قُلْ لَا أَعْبُدُ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ. The Christian, they come to you, said, for example, they try to justify for you why God has a sacrifice, with his son. Why? He said, people, because they sin too much, and because God is merciful, he has offered his son to die for the sake of the humankind. They said, well, I have a question. Why God will not forgive directly? Why God does not forgive? They said, no, because justice, everybody needs to be punished. He said that justice in your mind, that the justice you have defined it, not according to Allah. One time I asked a question, a person, you know what he said? He said, why God does not forgive? He said, if God forgives, then Christianity will not exist. I said, does not exist. I mean, it does not have a foundation. I mean, there's people, they believe in it, but it's in foundation, according to the haqq, it does not exist. In a very simple, why God does not forgive? وَرَبُّكَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ وَكَانَ رَبُّكَ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. Why He does not forgive? So you make all this, subhanAllah, this story to come up with this ikhraj, and with direction, with the result, and then the God you worship is not our God. هو رب العالمين سبحانه وتعالى. فالتوحيد is the foundation and the core of all the message of the Prophet. Look, all throughout the Quran, they didn't ask them, there's no Prophet who came and he said, oh, you should stop stealing, you stop doing fahisha. He said, اعبدوا الله ما لكم من إله غير. Worship Allah, there's no God, subhanallah, beside Him. Then comes, if the problem of the society is economic, like Shu'aib, stop cheating in the mizan. If a problem in the society is in immorality, then the next way is to cleanse themselves, like Lut. If the problem in the society is transgression and bullying, and being like tyrant, like the people of Hud, Aad, and so on. That comes the message that tailored to the nature of the society. But in the beginning, اعبدوا الله ما لكم من إله غيره. إن الدين دين الله ليس راية. The deen of Allah is not a banner, or like an emblem, or like inheritance. Inna deen Allahi haqiqa. The deen of Allah is the truth. Is the truth. تتمثل في الضمير والحياة سواء. Is the deen is presented for us in our spirit, in our heart, and in our life. تتمثل في عقيدة تعمر القلب. It is, presented in a creed, into belief that furnish and fill the heart, and ritual that we do it for ta'abbud, and a system that manage our life. So this is the Islam. It's not something that I born Muslim, I inherited and I will do whatever I can. وَلَا يَقُومُ دِينَ اللَّهِ إِلَّا فِي هَذَا الْكُلِّ الْمُتَكَامِلِ. And the deen of Allah will never stand only in combining all this. Heart, ibadah, and action that organize the whole system of life. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from al-abidin al-muttaqeen, inshallah. It's exactly 30 minutes. We'll stop here. Jazakumullah khair wa barakallahu fikum.